What if I lost all my gains and had to start over again? I started my fitness journey about 9 years ago, starting off with little muscle mass but a great determination to take care of my fitness. Fast forward about 2 years from my starting point, I was able to build some muscle, but I was struggling with controlling my body fat throughout this process. It wasn't until I started learning about scientific training and nutrition principles that I started seeing sustainable progress in my physique, both when it comes to leaning down and for muscle growth. My past many years of training and working as a personal trainer for 7 years now gave me a lot of learning lessons, and that's something I want to share with you. I made my fair share of mistakes when I was inexperienced in fitness, which slowed down my progress. And that's part of life. I have no regrets, but I definitely want to help you avoid my mistakes so you can achieve fitness progress in a more efficient way. So let's discuss 5 science-based steps to training that I would take if I had to start over my fitness journey. The first step is to identify the key compound movements that you want to master and build your workout routine around. Many of us, when we start training, we have a specific goal, like I want my biceps to show more or I want my upper back muscles to look more defined. But this is not the time to specialize. If your baseline levels of muscle mass is not at a high level, you want to build your foundation first and specialize later. I know it's tempting to walk in the gym and start doing some bicep curls if you want bigger arms, but that's not how you actually get bigger arms. Performing compound exercises in which your arm muscles are involved and getting stronger in these movements will help you develop your biceps and triceps, while also training other major muscle groups. So you are developing your physique in a more efficient way. There is research to support this too. One study compared the muscle growth effects of a lat pull down and a barbell bicep curl. Doing the lat pull down 2 times per week resulted in the same biceps muscle growth as only doing barbell bicep curls 2 times per week over a 10-week training period. But the group that trained the lat pull down also were able to develop their back muscles. So focus on the big bang for your buck exercises first to develop your physique as a whole. And to be specific, there are 6 movement patterns we want to focus on. A horizontal push to train mostly your chest and triceps, a vertical push to train the shoulders and triceps, a horizontal pull for the upper back region and your biceps, a vertical pull for the lats region and your biceps, a squatting pattern for the quadriceps and glutes, and lastly a hip hinge pattern for the hamstrings and glutes. If you focus on progressively overloading these movement patterns and train each pattern about 2 times per week, you will be ahead of most people in the gym in a year's time. Now, of course, on top of these movement patterns, you can also include some isolation movements like a bicep curl, tricep push down, or leg extension. But see these isolation movements as the cherry on the cake after you've done the foundational work. The second tip is about how to organize your training efficiently, or in other words, what workout routine you maintain throughout the week. It's common for people to begin training with a broad split, in which they train their chest triceps on day 1, back biceps on day 2, and legs on their 3rd training day. While a bro split can definitely work, I would typically recommend a different training split for beginner trainees that is more distributed throughout the week. With a bro split, you train each muscle about once per week. This means you also get to practice the form of a key movement pattern once a week. Ideally, you train your key movement patterns about 2 or even sometimes 3 times per week to become proficient in these exercises quickly. Also, not to mention that you will have better performance if you divide your weekly training volume for a muscle group over multiple training days. Let's say you train your chest muscles with about 12 sets per week. That's roughly 4 chest exercises. By the time you get to the 3rd and 4th chest exercise, your chest muscles will already be somewhat fatigued and you cannot maximize performance. If we divide those same 12 sets of chest training over 2 training days, you now have 6 sets of chest training in day 1 and 6 sets of chest training in day 2. This will allow you to train your chest muscles while they are better recovered, which then also results in better workout performance. Muscle growth is the result of having increased demands on the muscle over time, also known as progressive overload. So if you're able to recover and perform better in your workouts, that increases your gains. This explains why there's multiple research papers supporting that dividing your weekly training volume over 2 to 3 sessions is more beneficial than training a muscle once per week. When first starting out, having a weekly training frequency of 3 workouts per week should be sufficient to get your volume requirements. Using something like an upper, lower, or 3 times full body routine is typically more beneficial than a bro split in this case. The 3rd tip is where I see many people go wrong, and that is to invest in learning the proper technique of an exercise. We can only get the full benefits of a movement if we're able to properly engage the target muscle groups. If I am doing a barbell row with heavy weight but I am standing upright, there is little tension on the back muscles. It looks cool and you may feel more like a man or woman while performing the exercise, but it defeats the purpose. Focus on using a full range of motion, controlling the technique, and not rushing your weight increases. We want progressive overload, but only if you're able to control the extra weight or repetitions as you increase intensity in your workout. This may mean you have to use lighter weights in the beginning, but that's okay. Till this day, I still use chicken weights on some exercises, like on cable side delt raises. Because the exercises we train are tools we use to stimulate muscle. Your self-worth or how cool you are is not related to how much weight you're able to lift. And the funny thing is, with the mindset of prioritizing form, you end up lifting even more weight in the future. Because you're able to better develop the underlying muscle group, and that results in better long-term strength potential. The fourth tip is to often check whether you are pushing yourself hard enough while maintaining your good form. There is research showing that some beginner trainees train very far from failure with 6 or more repetitions in reserve at the end of a set. Having 6 or more repetitions in reserve is too far from failure to see any substantial progress in muscle growth. By definition, our training should feel challenging to the muscle. The goal with training is to disrupt homeostasis for your muscles to grow, so it's also important to check yourself regularly to see whether your workouts are actually challenging you. Research shows that the closer repetition is to muscle failure, the more effective that repetition is for stimulating muscle growth. That means pushing yourself is important. While maintaining your proper technique, make sure that you're not further than 1 to 2 repetitions away from failure. It is also good every month or so to purposely train to failure on your compound exercises. Test your limits and see whether you actually have been pushing yourself enough in training. The fifth and last tip is to worry less about that last bit of stubborn belly fat you may have. The biggest enemy of muscle development for most people is that last bit of stubborn fat. Losing fat to get leaner is a great goal to have, but it's also important to acknowledge that you always will need a healthy buffer of body fat to function optimally. Oftentimes, people lose a good amount of fat but still have a bit of stubborn fat left. This then results in these individuals staying in a calorie deficit for more months to come in the hopes of losing that stubborn fat, but when it comes to muscle growth, constantly staying in a calorie deficit is not beneficial. In fact, muscle growth is enhanced if we eat around maintenance calories or slightly above maintenance. Especially if you are a beginner trainee, place less value on getting ripped now. First, you can lean down to a healthy body weight and to a point where you feel comfortable in your clothes. After this, focus on building that foundation of muscle by getting out of a calorie deficit and eating more to support hard training. That stubborn fat is easier to get rid of once you have more muscle mass after your lean bulking phase, so take things step by step. This is also what I recommend to my online coaching clients, and it's resulting in great long-term progress. If you would like my personalized guidance on realizing your fitness goals, you can apply to my one-on-one online coaching service. With this service, I will personally coach you in your training and nutrition while holding you accountable throughout the process. You will have direct access to me as your coach. So apply through the link in the description or visit the link you can see below, and I will reach out to you if we are a good match. And that was all for today's video. I hope the tips discussed today will help you achieve better fitness results. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, then leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video.